What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing the mysterious and bizarre disappearance of Joey Lynn Offutt. Now, I've covered this case twice already here on this channel, but lately people have been in the Saturday night rerun replay live streams with Ghost Dragons EW talking about how maybe it would be a good idea for me to redo some of my older videos because of how much my style has changed and how my comfort level has gotten so much better in front of the camera. This case is the first true crime case and really the first case at all that I've ever covered here on this channel, and it really does hold a special place in my heart. It also holds a place in my heart and in my mind because it is still unsolved. I have a really good idea personally of who caused Joey to disappear, but I don't have proof of that, so I won't be talking too much about it. But I do think that by the end of this, many of you will have come to the same conclusions that I have come to. The fact of the matter is, this was a young, developmentally delayed mother whose mental facilities weren't where they should have been for her age, leaving her very open and susceptible to being taken advantage of. And there's a family and two little girls out there who are grown now who have no idea what happened to their loved one / mother. For me, that just isn't going to fly, guys. So let's just jump right in to the strange and mysterious disappearance of Joey Lynn Offutt. Joey Lynn Offutt was a 32-year-old mother of 3. She had a 9-year-old daughter from a previous relationship than the one we're going to be talking about today in this video. I couldn't find any information at all about that child's father or what that relationship entailed, how it ended, etc. The father of her other daughter, the youngest one, was a man named Alexis Brolin Jr., and he is the significant other, fiance, partner we are going to be discussing throughout this case today. Joey and Alexis, by all accounts, had a pretty rocky and tumultuous relationship. Joey was developmentally delayed, and even though she was a grown woman, her mentality was that of a 14 or 15-year-old teenager. Alexis, as far as I know and what's been reported, did not have any type of developmental delay or anything like that. So right from the door, guys, this made me wonder what a grown man was doing having a relationship and even children with essentially a 14 or 15-year-old girl. That might come back into play later on, though, so hold that thought. The couple lived in an apartment together in State College, Pennsylvania, with Joey's oldest daughter and her and Alexis's daughter as well. There's a lot of vague reporting in this case and not a lot of details and a lot of things where I wish I knew and could understand more to be able to explain it to you. So we're just going to have to go along with the best facts that I could find as we move through this case. So when they lived in State College, something happened that broke Alexis and Joey up, and it had to do with Alexis's older son from his previous relationship. Joey took the two girls and moved out, and she went to Virginia to live with her sister for about a year before returning to Pennsylvania, where Alexis was, but also where her mother lived as well. Joey's mom was kind of tired of watching Joey bounce around with the kids from place to place, and she wanted her daughter and her grandchildren to have more stability and to remain closer to her. She was so relieved to have them finally back from Virginia that she decided to purchase a home for Joey and the two girls so that Joey could make it her own and not have to worry at least about ever having a place to live again. This home was in Sykesville, Pennsylvania. Alexis and Joey got back together around this time as well and were even planning on getting married, but decided it would be best if they maintained separate residences just for the time being until they worked through some of their issues. So Alexis was not going to be living with Joey in the new home Joey's mother had purchased for her and the kids, at least not right away. They had a pretty nasty breakup and therefore were taking it very slowly. Joey went missing in July of 2007 and it's still unsolved. It's absolutely insane and very confusing and just so very heartbreaking and frustrating that there isn't even a hint or a clue as to what could have happened here or where Joey could possibly be or where she ended up. Joey ended up getting pregnant with another of Alexis's kids, and when she finally gave birth, it was a baby boy. She decided she wanted, when she came home from the hospital, to just spend time alone with her newborn baby. I can totally get that just with that bonding time, and especially she had 2 older children, and you really need your rest after giving birth. While newborn babies are demanding in a whole different way, they do sleep a lot. And I think Joey just wanted some time to spend with her son and to just escape for a little bit. Pregnancy can be very stressful. And remember, she was technically, in mentality, 14 years old. She sent her oldest daughters to go and stay with her mother for a little while so she could have some time alone again with her baby boy. Some sources reported that Joey and Alexis's daughter went with Alexis and her other daughter went with her mother, but it's more widely reported, and I think it's accurate, that both girls went to stay with their grandmother, Joey's mother. Joey was described by her mother and those closest to her as being incredibly naive and extremely immature. She was way too trusting and pretty much believed everything that anyone told her. She never questioned people's intentions or motives. She had a lot of trouble holding down jobs, didn't have many, if any, meaningful friendships besides from her friendship with Alexis, and aside from Alexis, she hadn't been able to hold on to any long-term romantic relationships either. There were several different timelines of events, but I decided in this case to just roll with the timeline from the most reputable source and the timelines that I saw reported in more reputable sources. So we're just going to roll with that timeline because it just seems to be the easiest at this point, because the information in this case really is all over the place. So here it is, the timeline of events leading up to and within the bizarre disappearance of Joey Lynn Offutt. On July 3rd, 2007, according to Alexis Brolin Jr., Joey's fiance, and the father of her youngest daughter and newborn son, had an argument while at Joey's new house that day. Alexis said that while they're visiting Joey and the baby, who they named Alexis Brolin III, Joey was attempting to bathe the baby in the kitchen sink, but she hadn't cleaned it out first. He said he told her straight out that he didn't appreciate her bathing their newborn in a dirty sink, and he claims he asked her if she would please clean the sink out before bathing the baby. By the way, the little boy's nickname was Lex, so that's how I'm going to be referring to him from here on out to distinguish between him and his father, who I am going to be calling Alexis. Because Joey was so young in her mind and immature, she had a really hard time handling even the smallest of criticisms, and she took it very personally and as an insult, and seemed very injured by Alexis's observation about the sink being dirty when she was going to bathe Lex in it. He claims he just was trying to give her some time to cool off because she had a kind of explosive temper, and this conversation or dialogue or argument, whatever it was, really set her off. He figured he would either reach out later on or she would come to him eventually when she was ready and had cooled down. This wasn't an uncommon thing, them fighting and Joey losing her temper and needing her space to clear her head and to cool off. So he left the house during the argument and left Joey and the baby there. The next day, which was the 4th of July, when Joey repeatedly failed to answer his phone calls, Alexis simply assumed she was still angry with him. She was somewhat known to shut down like this, and though he tried repeatedly, he just couldn't get a hold of her on the phone that day. On July 5th, however, when Joey still wasn't answering him, he decided to go to the house and knock on the door. It's not so much he was worried, but it was a bit unusual for Joey to have still been so angry as to not answer him at all 2 days later. However, there was no answer to his knocking either, and there seemed to be nobody home. Later on during the investigation, a neighbor of Joey's came forward and reported that they had seen Joey on this day, on July 5th, which was 2 days after anyone she knew had seen or heard from her. 2 days since the argument with Alexis Brolin Jr. The neighbor said that Joey was pushing the baby stroller down the street, but that they clearly remembered this because when they greeted her and said hello, Joey, who was usually so outgoing, trusting, and friendly, didn't say a single thing in return and continued walking while pushing the baby stroller. When asked if they could actually confirm that there was a baby in the stroller that Joey was pushing, the neighbor said that they actually couldn't. This is weird to me because it's reported as the last official sighting of Joey, but in reality, it actually hasn't been confirmed really. It's just what the neighbor said they had seen, and they said they could have been mistaken about the date. Another thing that struck me personally as odd was this. How could the neighbor not know if there was a baby in that stroller? I mean, here's this person's neighbor who was pregnant when she moved in, and they obviously knew her because they were greeting her. They didn't stop and look and ask to see the baby. Like, oh my gosh, you had the baby. Let me take a peek. I don't know, guys. I know it's reaching, but that's just something that struck me as very, very odd. My main point here, though, is that if this neighbor was incorrect about the date they saw Joey, then the actual last confirmed sighting of her was when Alexis was at her home the night they got into the argument over bathing their son in a dirty sink, and therefore he would have been the last person to see her alive, all the while admittedly having had an argument with her. So you might be like, Gemma, okay, well, obviously Alexis is going to be a suspect. I mean, yeah. The next day, on July 6, 2007, a nurse from a state-home health agency who was assigned to check in on Joey and little Lex called Alexis and informed him that she was at Joey's house for a scheduled visit, which she had already confirmed with Joey while she was in the hospital, and nobody was answering the door for her. So I'm pretty sure this was a mandated visit, so it was in Joey's best interest to answer the door for this woman, even if she was still angry for whatever reason with Alexis. So this was pretty concerning, or at least it should have been. The nurse also said she was using her cell phone from the front porch to try and call while she was there, but she wasn't receiving any type of answer, like anyone picking up the phone either. There was no movement at all in the house because she did look through the windows that were accessible from the porch and saw a diaper bag and a car seat sitting right next to the front door. She told Alexis that Joey's car was parked out in front of the house, not in the driveway, but it was definitely there, and that the mail was piling up at the front door. By this time, Alexis was growing more and more concerned as each day passed, and he decided to go back to Joey's house on the 7th. This is now 4 days since anyone, not just Alexis, has seen or heard from Joey, aside from the weird neighbor's alleged account that has never been able to be confirmed that it even happened or that it happened on that date. She had even blown off plans with him for the 4th of July, which he was now starting to think more about when he had simply blown it off as her still being angry when it had happened in the moment. Alexis once again got no answer when he knocked on the door and no answer when he called the house. He claims, however, that when he went there on the 7th, Joey's car was nowhere in sight, not in the front of the house where the home health aide had seen it just the day before, and not in the driveway where it was last seen by him a few days earlier. Also, if you're that concerned and the home health aide is saying, listen, there is nobody here, but the car is here, wouldn't you go that day? Why are you waiting another 24 hours? I don't know. The home health aide's not going to be there late at night, right? So it's not like it was so late when she was there, he had to wait till the next day. If this were me, I think, you never know what you're going to do in this type of situation, but if this were me, I would head right over to my significant other's house and see what the heck was going on with them right then and there. In fact, I would tell the home health aide, listen, I'll meet you there. Just give me a minute. On July 8th, after once again receiving no answer while at Joey's house knocking on the door, Alexis left a note on the front door for her for when she came back. Because now he's angry, right? He thinks she's taking this whole bathing in the dirty sink thing and her stubbornness way too far and decides he's going to threaten her with calling the police if she doesn't get back to him within 24 hours to at least let him know that she and the baby are okay. So this is what the note basically said when he left it taped to the front of the front door. On this day, July 8th, the car is parked back in the front of the house. So, if we believe what Alexis is reporting of what's been happening these past few days, as everyone is trying to get a hold of Joey, someone is definitely at least moving her car back and forth. On July 9th through 10th, Alexis and Joey's mother called Joey's house nonstop for those 2 days, but nobody answered or called back. Why no one thought to report Joey and Lex as missing at this point is completely beyond me, but I mean, I do somewhat get it, somewhat. I'm not a person who likes dealing with the police at all, and you'll see later that it might have been the same thing with Joey. So maybe everyone was just afraid of overreacting, and that by bringing in the police, they might end up making things worse instead of better if Joey was okay and was just being stubborn or whatever else they thought could have possibly been going on. Moving on to July 12th, 2007, which was 5 days after the neighbor saw her, but 9 days since the argument with Alexis. That's quite a long time, in my opinion, for a young lady with special needs and a very newborn baby left in her care to just be missing, and for nobody who cares for her to be doing anything about it, but I digress. Especially her mother has at least one of her other children and can't get a hold of her for some earplugs for that child. The child had a very bad ear issue where she couldn't even take a bath without earplugs. And Joey was supposed to send them out the first day the daughter left to go with her grandmother, but they never arrived. They were never sent out. This is also a lot more cause for concern, in my opinion, as Joey really did love and care for her children by all accounts, and despite her rational behavior and immaturity, they claim that it was mainly because of her pattern of behavior with her stubbornness to forgive and let go of grudges that, despite being concerned, they didn't want to make a big deal out of nothing and upset her even more. So everyone is tiptoeing around Joey. I don't mean to be mean, but this is what happens when we cater to entitled people. Who knows if they would have said, you know what? if she wants to be stubborn like this, that's fine, but we need to make sure that she and that baby are okay, like 2 days later, or even 3 days later. So, on the morning of July 13th at around 4:30 in the morning, Joey's neighbors heard a loud explosion coming from her house. When they looked out the window to see what was going on, they saw that her home was completely engulfed in flames, and they called 911. Witnesses would come out and tell the investigators that around 3 a.m. they saw Joey's car parked out in front of her house. This was very important, not only because of how the car kept randomly reappearing, disappearing, moving from the street to the driveway in the days of Joey's disappearance since she had last been seen, but because when the fire department and police showed up to the fire a few minutes after being alerted to it, Joey's car was not in front of the house or anywhere in sight. It wasn't in the driveway either. It was gone. The firefighters and police determined that the fire was started by an unknown accelerant, and it was started on purpose. So here we have an arson. This was now not only a missing person case, but an arson investigation as well. Later on that day, not knowing what had happened, Alexis finally decides it might be a good time to go and file a missing persons report on Joey and newborn Lex. This is when he receives the devastating news that not only was the house burned to the ground in an apparent arson, but, trigger warning, the remains of his 6-week-old son, Alexis Brolin III, were found in the bathtub of the home. Joey's remains were never found as she was still missing and is still missing to this day, as I cover this again in May of 2024, and an autopsy would later determine that little Lex was deceased before he was burned in the fire. A cause of death was never determined for Alexis Brolin III. Guys, I know this is not only heartbreaking, but so incredibly confusing and mysterious. It's devastating. It gets much more so, though, so just try and stay with me here. I found it a bit strange that nobody had contacted or gotten in touch with Alexis about the fire at the very least, let alone the discovery of infant remains in the home. He must have known the neighbors because he was there constantly and seemed to have been the emergency contact for at least the home health aide instead of Joey's mother. In the investigation that followed Joey's disappearance and what looked like the murder of an infant, and also the arson, some things came out about Joey and her and Alexis's relationship that were cause for some concern. Her own mother came out and admitted to the investigators that the year before, in 2006, Joey had in fact fallen prey to a possible online sexual predator, and she had to step in and take action against her daughter. Sherry, Joey's mother, talks about how she was granted temporary custody of Joey's 2 daughters after it was discovered that she was communicating online with a man from California who had Joey convinced he was a photographer who wanted her to model for him, and eventually he asked her to possibly engage in some pornography as well. In the interview, I kind of got a weird feeling about what Sherry said next about Joey, but I mean, what she said wasn't untrue, right? If you Google pictures Joey Lynn Offutt missing, you'll see it wasn't untrue, but she was saying how though her daughter was a beautiful soul and a bright spot in the lives of the people who she came across, she right away found this guy suspicious when Joey mentioned him because her daughter, quote, wasn't anywhere near model material, end of quote. I don't know whether it be true or not. In your opinion, I found that a bit harsh to be saying out loud and publicly about your missing and possibly deceased daughter. But I guess she was just trying to explain how this all came about with her getting the temporary custody and all of that. So anyways, Sherry said she was very concerned that this guy was some kind of online predator who knew Joey had 2 young daughters and maybe he was trying to get in with Joey so he could eventually have access to her daughters. So she filed the paperwork for temporary custody and she won. Joey did not take this well. After learning her kids were being taken and sent to live with her mother, she allegedly, quote, threw a violent fit, end quote, and had to be escorted out of her home, handcuffed by the police. Joey had to undergo counseling before she could regain custody of her kids back, which she eventually did, and she made up with her mother. This is one of the reasons I think that maybe her mother, at the very least, was afraid to jump the gun and get the authorities involved. Right? Because she knew that it would maybe scare Joey, or Joey would think that someone was trying to take her newborn away, that she had done something wrong maybe. It would scare her. So this is where I can understand the mother not wanting to get the police involved. But Alexis Brolin Jr., I'm not sure about him, man. So let's talk about theories. The internet predator. As I pretty much already stated, Joey had fallen prey just a year previously to her disappearance to an internet predator who was possibly grooming her to get closer access to her young daughters. Did she possibly meet someone online, give them her address and personal information, leaving her open to some kind of abduction, or possibly even to sex trafficking? Was she stalked in some way by someone she gave too much information to online? We have to always keep in mind here that Joey was not your average and typical 32-year-old mother of three. She was essentially a 14-year-old girl, and she thought like one. We see all the time, especially in this community, young teenage girls being groomed by predators online. At first, I did lean very heavily towards this being what could have possibly happened to Joey. However, once I dug a bit deeper into my research, I found that for months before the disappearance and fire, basically since she had moved into the new home, Joey's internet had been disconnected in her home due to non-payment of bill. I'm also mostly positive that while cell phones definitely were getting more popular back in 2007, I don't think smartphones with internet access were readily available to just anyone back then either. I believe the first one came out in like 2006 and cost an exorbitant amount of money. Either way, I know that Joey did not own a smartphone at all, therefore she did not have internet access really at all, and therefore couldn't have really fallen prey to a predator or a stalker from the internet. Is it possible? I guess, like, she could have been going to the library with, very much pregnant and with 2 kids, but in my opinion, it's not really reasonable. Another theory to consider is that perhaps Joey either purposefully or accidentally hurt the baby in some way and panicked. The irony of the fact that the infant was found deceased in the bathtub didn't escape me as I went through all of this information. Remember, the fight that kicked off the final argument between Joey and Alexis was because he accused her of trying to bathe the baby in a dirty sink, and she flipped out, got really angry, and kicked him out of the house. Then she began giving him the silent treatment and disappeared off the face of the planet. Was it a spite thing in the heat of the moment? Like, I'll show you, I'll bathe him in the tub. And she did something to the baby, and then after realizing what she had done, was hiding out for a week or so, and then to cover it up, set the house on fire. Did that same scenario take place, but then something accidentally happened to the baby and she panicked? Again, anything's possible, but it's not really reasonable in my opinion either, because remember, she's a young teenager mentally, and how in the world would she have been able to disappear completely and without a trace for all of these years now? 17 years later, and still no sightings at all of Joey have ever been reported, let alone confirmed or credible. Also, I don't think she had the mental facilities or the know-how to so completely and thoroughly disappear for all of this time without leaving at least some sort of clue or clues behind as to her whereabouts, or to at least this elaborate plan which she would have had to have come up with basically on her own. Some people talked about her perhaps hurting the baby due to postpartum depression or psychosis, but I need to say here, there is absolutely no evidence at all to back that up, and I want to reiterate that despite her irrational and immature decisions, she did love her children very much and was considered by all accounts to be a great and caring mother to them. Could an accident have happened? Sure, but I just don't think that's what we're dealing with here, in my own opinion anyway. If you guys think something else, then please let me know in the comments below, but please let me know why you feel the way you do. Another thing to remember here is how Joey's car kept appearing and disappearing in that entire time in the final days when nobody was able to get into contact with her. So, was it Joey that was doing this? In my opinion, it had to have been someone who was not only comfortable driving her car or being in front of her house, but also someone who wouldn't stand out being around her house or in the neighborhood as well. To me, this could really only be one person besides her mom, and that's Alexis Brolin Jr. I'm about to get into why I'm so incredibly suspicious of that man in a minute, but I wanted to save it for last. There's really no way of ever knowing, and this is what frustrates me so much about this case. It's just like, oh, what the actual hell is going on here? The seat of the vehicle was also pushed back way further than if Joey had been the one driving it, at least the last time when it was abandoned in the complex parking lot. Yes, I actually forgot to tell you, and I wrote that here, Joey's ever-moving vehicle was found 2 days after the fire was discovered, abandoned in the parking lot of an apartment complex, the one in State College, where she and Alexis used to live before she moved to Virginia. So, Joey was a short woman, so the seat being pushed so far back from the wheel proved that someone much taller was driving the car when it was left there that day. Everything is just so incredibly confusing and very frustrating. So, Joey's car was eventually found, as I said, and the police found the car parked several hours away in State College, in the same apartment complex where she and Alexis had lived some years before when they had the falling out about his son when Joey took the girls and moved to Virginia. I brought that up again because it's just really sus, in my opinion. Who would have even known to park it there, and who would have even known that there was any connection between Joey and this apartment building? This piece of information leads me to believe that if it wasn't Alexis Brolin Jr., then it was surely someone who knew both him and Joey, because there's no way I'm going to believe that someone drove the car several hours away for no reason to leave it somewhere randomly, and it just happened to have been left completely coincidentally in that specific apartment complex's lot. So, where they found the car and the fact that it kept disappearing and reappearing from out in front of her house leads me to what I need to say about Mr. Alexis Brolin Jr. Please understand that he has not been charged with any crime relating to this case, relating to the death or disappearance of Joey or the death of his infant son or the fire in question either. This is all my opinion, theory, and speculation on my own part. In the interview I watched, he was crying, but it seemed like he was only crying when talking about the death of Lex, not so much with Joey. Seems to me, too, he moved on pretty darn quickly from that relationship with Joey, as he was remarried these days and was, as I said, quite fast for my tastes after all of this took place. I was able to access his Facebook account in 2021 when I first covered this story, and even as of then, people were just posting things on his wall like, quote, Joey, question mark, end quote, and quote, but what about Joey Lynn, question mark, end quote, things like that. So I'm not the only one who seems to think he could be involved in some way. While investigating those closest to Joey, the police uncovered the fact that Alexis was in fact a felon and former drug addict. Joey had filed at least one protection from abuse order against him. Joey even went so far as to claim in one of her reports that his son from a previous marriage had been physically and sexually abusing one of her daughters, which had also been a part of the reason she had had the child removed from the home and why she left for Virginia. This is when Alexis and Joey finally separated. She moved to Virginia, and even possibly why when she moved back and was given her own home, Alexis was not invited to move back in, despite the couple saying they were going to work things out and get married. Keep in mind, these were just allegations, so I'm not saying his son was actually doing this or that Alexis was abusive towards Joey in any way. I'm simply stating what I found while researching theories. There was absolutely zero corroboration to these claims, to the point where the Disappeared episode that I watched when I was first introduced to this case didn't even mention any of this. I personally believe that these allegations and accusations against Alexis and his oldest son were a teenage girl's spitefulness and immaturity in trying to get full custody in order to move out of the state with his daughter, which Alexis wasn't going to allow to happen, as far as I can tell, unless she pulled a stunt like that. Just my opinion. This isn't at all to say that I believe Alexis Brolin Jr. is above suspicion here. Again, I'm only talking about that specific set of allegations. Here's where I get even more aggravated and frustrated, annoyed, and confused. Police have stated that, aside from his, quote, absolute refusal, end quote, to take a polygraph test regarding the arson, death of Lex, and disappearance of Joey, Alexis Brolin Jr. is not a suspect in this case. This is weird to me because I've never seen any interviews or anything with him explaining or with any kind of explanation as to why he wouldn't take the lie detector test regarding this case. I know they're inadmissible, and I also know they're just used as a kind of a tool, but I'll pose this question to you. If they dug up that he's a felon and former drug addict, and I'm not saying either one of those things indicts him or makes him guilty here, but hear me out. Those two things combined with the fact that he refused to cooperate and take the lie detector test make me wonder how in the world the investigators could even make a statement like that publicly. How did they rule him out then? How did they rule him out? I think that's a very bold statement for the investigators to make about a man who put himself at the scene multiple times, admitted to having an explosive argument with her the last time he saw her, which for all intents and purposes was actually the last time she was confirmed to have been seen alive. Not to mention, he waited 9 or 10 days before reporting her as missing, and he just happened to report her as such on the day his son's body was found. and the day the house burned down. He also said he had no idea there had been a fire or any bodies were found, but that it was just one big coincidence that he happened to go to the station and decided to report her and his infant son as missing on that particular day. 10 days later. Many people do wonder if maybe Alexis lost it when Joey exploded on him for such a simple thing as him asking her to clean the sink before bathing their newborn in it, and then maybe he panicked and he didn't know what to do. Did the baby succumb to dehydration after he did something to Joey, and he just decided to start the fire eventually because he didn't know what to do anymore? So everyone knew that Joey would give people the silent treatment after arguments. Alexis knew this specifically and had gone through it with her many times before, but wouldn't he have wanted to see and spend time with his newborn son? Why and how did he let her disappearance go on for so long, guys? I don't understand. Most people I know and that I've asked would have been concerned after only a couple of days because they would have wanted to make sure their infant child was okay, and I tend to agree. I feel like, allegedly, and just in my own opinion, that if Alexis is responsible for all of this, then he may have accidentally or maybe even purposely hurt Joey, then panicked and didn't know what to do, and that all of the back and forth from the house he did was only to leave notes or try and see if she was home, but maybe he was really spending time feeding and changing and comforting the baby until he left again. It might be a stretch, guys, but newborn babies sleep a lot. I honestly don't know, though, because the neighbors should have been able to hear a baby screaming unless he did whatever to Joey for whatever reason, and knew that he wouldn't be able to come up with any explanation or scenario where he somehow just had Lex with him in his custody, and therefore he had to do something horrible to the baby as well to cover his tracks. Did you guys catch that? And if you did, let me know what you think about it. I would also really like to come to some sort of understanding or have someone explain to me the investigator's process of ruling people out in this investigation. The investigation into a deceased infant and missing woman with special needs, if all of those things, not to mention his volatile relationship with the victim and the last argument they had being about bathing their son when that same baby was found in the bathtub, deceased of all places, but yet he isn't and wasn't ever considered a suspect in the case and was almost immediately ruled out. I ask you again, what is their criteria for ruling people out then? If everything I just told you, the absolute refusal to take the polygraph and everything else doesn't make him a suspect, what is their criteria for ruling people out? Go ahead, I'll wait. As far as Alexis and the polygraph tests, why wouldn't he want them to clear him as quickly as possible so that they could move on to finding who actually killed his infant son and did whatever to poor Joey? Though I guess it didn't really matter because the police somehow managed to rule him out completely and totally anyways without his cooperation in their investigation. He cooperated in every other way though, so they say, in every way except letting the police get a professional in there to test him and examine whether or not he was telling the truth. I'll be the first to admit that I don't know if I would even take a polygraph test if I were in his shoes, just because of how the police lie and things like that, just how I was raised and brought up and my own experiences, but I'm not sure. I guess you can never really know until you're in a situation like that. I also don't know what kind of felon Alexis was at the time or what his drug of choice was, but after some digging, I will say I have an idea, and none of this was mentioned in really any of the articles I came across either. It's like people are purposefully leaving this out. I'm not going to. So the police's actual statement was that other than his absolute refusal, that he was, quote, extremely cooperative and never considered a suspect, end quote. And I suppose that's where all of my confusion comes from here. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Do you guys agree it's very strange or no? Okay, moving on to some more recent information I found while looking into what Alexis is up to since Joey's disappearance, when I went through his Facebook page and started looking into public record and things like that. Are you ready for this? Well, hang on a minute, because I have one more thing I forgot to add. If Alexis did do something to Joey in a rage, or even by accident during one of their many violent fights, did he know he couldn't just leave with baby Lex and still claim to have not seen or heard from Joey, so he left the baby there and removed her body in some way, but then something happened, and the little guy died while waiting for someone to go into the home and find him? I should have mentioned that earlier, sorry. I'm going off the old video because this script was missing from my library, so I had to rewrite it, and this was, as I said, the very first true crime video I had ever done on my channel. I was extremely slow, I was all over the place. I did the best I could regarding the chronology of events. Okay, So this takes us to recent news that I found incredibly suspicious about Alexis. A man named Alexis Berlin Jr., who is the same age and from the same town as our Alexis we've been speaking about this whole time. And I say that not because I believe it isn't him, but because I couldn't find a photo of this guy. But I did find a co-defendant on our Alexis's Facebook page. So yeah, guys, it's him, allegedly. So he was recently, as in the year of 2020, arrested as part of a gigantic methamphetamine ring that was busted up by the police. Putting this all together, as he was a former drug addict, right? Could it possibly have been meth? Yeah. This is a quote from an article about the bust from June of 2020. Quote, 38 people were arrested this week as federal, state, and local law enforcement officers broke up a major methamphetamine distribution ring in Clearfield County, United States Attorney Scott W. Brady said in Johnstown, end quote. And, quote, John Bisbee, 40, and Alexis Berlin Jr., 51 of Allport, Clearfield County, allegedly were the principal administrators, organizers, supervisors, and leaders of what Brady called the Bisbee-Berlin drug trafficking ring, end quote. I wonder, was Alexis going to Joey's house because he was cooking something up there and used the guise of checking up on her as an excuse? Did she perhaps discover someone doing something like cooking drugs on her property and threatened to call the police, so she had to be silenced? Was her allegedly strange behavior reported by the neighbor who had that last confirmed sighting, which could never actually be confirmed, of Joey when she wouldn't say hello and was walking down the street with a possibly empty stroller due to drug intoxication? Was she high, either accidentally because she was drugged or on purpose, because we don't know anything and are speculating here, and accidentally while under the influence hurt the baby and Alexis snapped and did something to her? Was Joey an innocent bystander? And Alexis had a meth lab there, and it was the explosion and some of the chemicals were possibly the unknown accelerant, which caused the blaze. Remember, the neighbors heard an explosion. They didn't just smell smoke or see fire. Also keep in mind, this is all speculation, and in the United States of America, people are always supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and nobody has been charged with any crime in relation to the disappearance of Joey Lynn Offutt or the death of Alexis Berlin III. Joey's mother and sister continue to search for her and for answers and continue to actively seek justice for Joey and little baby Lex. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me. Spread the love by sharing this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and please make sure your notification bells are on and switched on to all so that you receive every single update that I put out, live streams, pre-recordeds, everything else that I have going on here on this channel. If you are on TikTok, please go over GemmaJadeYT on TikTok. I need 1,000 followers or I can't even go live. I know a lot of my subscriber base is, a little bit older than TikTok's normal audience, but if you can go on over there just to follow me, I would really appreciate it. If you don't want to, that's cool. Just stick around on here. Please share my content as best and as much as you can to try to keep building the YouTube channel as well. I'm doing the introductory video for Rumble, so we're going to be getting on Rumble and doing some live streams over there too. The schedule for the week is in the description box, along with ways to donate to the channel, PayPal, Cash App, my Amazon wish list gift link, becoming a member, becoming a patron. I don't offer much, but I do offer some things for patrons and members. All of the links for all of my books are in the description box as well. If you want autographed copies, if you want to send me in your personal listener encounters for me to do more videos, possibly another Campfire Stories volume, one of my books, please send those to GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. Email me for any correspondence if you want a signed copy of a book, any questions you may have, whatever the case may be, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. Guys, please, if you purchased any of my books in any format, go to Amazon. It takes like 20 seconds, maybe up to a minute, and it's free to do. Leave me a 5-star rating and a great review. Please, it really does help me sell more books. If you haven't purchased my newest book, Gone Mysterious Disappearances Volume 2 yet, please know that I edited that one personally. I know my last few, there have been some editing issues that y'all have been bringing my attention to. I really do appreciate that. That book, Gone Mysterious Disappearances Volume 2, and going forward, I will be personally editing all of my books, just like I do my content here and everywhere else. Also, if you missed last week's video, I didn't put it to members only. I put the mass disappearances to members only. It is me reading some encounters from my Campfire Stories Volume 1 book and from Gone Mysterious Disappearances Volumes 1 and 2 to try to get you guys a better understanding of what the books are about. Campfire Stories Volumes 1 and 2 are listener encounters, which you guys love so much, but they're like on steroids. They're made for books sent in by you guys and other listeners, subscribers, my friends, my family, just written for the book, you know, just a lot longer. So I was hoping that you guys would really, that would push book sales a little bit if y'all haven't purchased that book. Be kind to each other, guys. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today, I believe in you. I got your back. Don't give up. You can do it. It's not much longer now. The energy in the atmosphere is certainly shifting in favor of us light workers and empaths who have been putting up with way too much poop for far too long. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.